in the way of our seeing. And in the midst of pondering this through the week, I couldn't help but notice my son. Sorry, son, one more time, you are the means to my illustrations. I'm getting him in while he's young, before he tells me I'm not allowed to. My son has recently really discovered the cell phone. His dad has an old cell phone that he gave to my son, our son, and so now my son plays games and watches child-safe reels on the phone as a means to entertain himself at times, for better or worse. But what I find is when my son is doing that, it's really hard to get his attention. I'd be like, Davy, David William Thomas Scott Jones. Nothing. It's as if I don't exist. When my son is looking at this cell phone, it is all that he sees. It is all that his reality is made up of. The truth is, I think most of us can think of adults who are the same way. When they have a device in front of them, they are unable to see anything out there in the world. For some of us, when we go to the phone, it's because of this need to know what's going on in reality. It's this need to fixate on the news of the moment, because long gone are the days of only receiving news once a day. For some of us, it's the means to escape said reality, to fixate on something that just gives us peace, truly or falsely, but gives us a calmness in that moment. For some of us, it's this desire to project an image of ourselves that we want the world to see. Whatever it is, it's so easy that we begin to have that become our only reality. That what is in front of us on our device is all that we see, that we miss everything else out there. Now, we can't blame it all on technology, because we've always had things in our lives that make us have blinders, that make us unable to see the wider reality of the world. And I think that's one of the things that is going on in today's gospel reading. When I read this, reading this time, the thing that stuck out to me more than anything else was the fact that no one was rejoicing with this man. Here's this man who was born without the ability to see, lived his entire life that way, and now has received a miracle from Jesus. And not a single person in this very, very, very long passage tells us that they're happy for him, that they're rejoicing with him, that they want to know this secret so they can experience it for themselves. The disciples are like seminarian students. They are so fixated on the need to have their theology neat and order and all understood, like all of us who have gone through seminary have experienced ourselves, and many others. But this need to have our theology worked out becomes such a focus that they fixate on whose sin was involved in causing the blindness that they couldn't see the bigger miracle about to happen. The Pharisees are so fixated, sure, maybe a little bit on the legalism of Sabbath, but I think really what the Pharisees are fixated on in this story is this need to keep the status quo, to make sure no one rocks the boat. They are under Roman occupation. If they keep things quiet, if they keep things decently and in order, then the Romans will let them continue to carry on as they currently are. But this Jesus guy is seeming to shake things up a little too much. And so they are fixated on that need. And that because of that, they are unable to see all that Jesus is actually offering. And then we have the parents. The parents, I would say, are fixated on avoiding shame. See, they have been avoiding shame since the moment this child was born blind, because people have always been questioning them. What did you do that caused your child to be that way? And now, as this child is an adult, they're finally coming into their own once again as parents, and now the threat to be kicked out of their community once again is about to happen. That is all that they can see. That is all that is in front of them. So even this man's parents are unable to rejoice. What is it in our lives that keep us so blinded from the realities around us that we can't see the miracles where they are happening? What can we do to then be able to better see so that we can mourn with those who mourn and rejoice with those who rejoice? I think first and foremost is being in relationship with others. None of us are meant to do this alone. I've been saying this again and again, and I will continue to say it again and again. Sorry, broken record here. But thinking about how we need to be in relationship with one another to be able to drop those blinders, to be able to see the reality beyond what we have in front of us, beyond our own anxieties and fears and fixations, takes relationship. But it's not just being in relationship with those who we are most comfortable with, those who think and see the world just like us. It takes pushing ourselves to get out there and to hear stories of others who see the world differently than we do, so that we can begin to see the world more fully. So with that, I'd like to suggest an invitation for all of us, if you're brave enough to pick this one up in the next few months. There's two parts to it, and I don't expect you to do both, but I hope that you'll pick one of the two. The first option is to listen to a neighbor. Think of somebody in your sphere, maybe not a literal neighbor, but somebody in your sphere, someone you engage with rather regularly. Maybe somebody who does see the world rather differently than you do. Someone that you might keep at an arm's length for one reason or another. Think of who that might be. And I challenge you to try to build a little bit more of a relationship there, to spend time with them so you can hear what it is that breaks their heart, but also what it is that makes their heart rejoice, so that you can mourn and rejoice with them. The second challenge is I think it's important to recognize that our sphere in America is not the way the world sees the world. And so sometimes it's helpful to step back even further and to ask, how do other people in the world view our current situations? And so the invitation is something that I'm working on. I'm hoping that I can pull it together, and I'm hoping you will join me in that. I want to reclaim the old tradition of pen pals. How many had a pen pal as a kid? Few? Yeah, okay. More than last night. Now we have the modern uses of technology that we might be able to do this more timely and efficiently. But I am going to work, I hope, with the bishop in Jerusalem. He doesn't know this yet. I haven't asked. I'm hoping our bishop will help make that connection. He doesn't know it yet either. But I'm hoping that we can reach out to some Anglican Christians throughout the Middle East who are experiencing the realities of this world rather differently than we are as we view it from a TV screen, so that we can hear from them their experiences, so we can hear from them what are their fears, what are their concerns, what are they mourning. But then also so we can hear from them, what is it that they are rejoicing in? So that we, more broadly as a human race, can mourn with those who mourn and rejoice with those who rejoice. For all of this is part of what it then means to lament together. Because we cannot not lament with others if we do not know what they're truly lamenting. Now, sure, this sounds good to some extent, but Jenny, there's plenty of laments out there that actually are not so nice, that actually curse other people. So instead of trying to make friends with everybody, they're shunning certain groups of people. Can't we fixate on those a little bit more, please? Can't we curse a few people? I mean, Psalm 137 talks about dashing heads against a stone. not very nice. How is this in our scriptures? This is where I found the most recent chapter of this book, really helpful, chapter 4. It's looking at part in the cursing laments of our Psalms. And I'd like to really quickly highlight just two things that Eklund suggests. One is as we pray these psalms that have these uncomfortable curses in them, that we are able to then separate what we are lamenting, the pain that we are feeling, the pain that has been done to us or to others whom we love, that we can eventually find a way through God to separate that pain from the actual individuals who we blame for that pain and suffering. So in a sense that we end up cursing the evil acts and not the people. And the second thing, and this is what really hit home for me at least, is that when we ask God to curse someone, that essentially what we are doing in that moment is placing our pain and suffering and our need for justice in God's hands. Instead of us seeking retribution ourselves, we are saying, God, you take it from here. We as humans, as limited beings, are not meant to be the ones who are giving out the acts of vengeance, of retribution. That is up for God to do. We can't handle that kind of power, at least not by ourselves. And so what does it look like if we go through the feels, we go through the emotions, all the anger, all the pain, but then we truly hand it off to God and say, God, you take it from here? Is that one more thing that then maybe helps us to drop those blinders so that we can see those who are the perceived enemy also as children of God who are beloved? When I watch the news these days, at least I keep hearing the phrase in my head, violence begets violence. So how can we see as God sees so we can stop this never-ending cycle? Gandhi is known for saying an eye for an eye and the whole world is blind. I think it's not only meant that an eye for an eye and nobody has an eye left, but it's also this reality that if we hyperfixate on the need for vengeance, on the need for retaliation, we are unable to see the bigger picture as God sees it. We ourselves become blind to what is truly out there. If we do not have lament as a prayer, we are unable to give ourselves the space to see as God sees. Instead, we are caught up in our blindness. The things that cause us pain or anger is all that we can see. And this is why lament is important, to hold all of that and to hand it off to God, because God is more than big enough to handle it. If we don't do this, we miss out on the celebrations. We miss out on the opportunities to mourn with those who mourn, but more importantly, to rejoice with those who rejoice. So let us see as God sees. Amen.